as a DM, but I like to challenge the players. It would depend on how that felt in game. I don't want to thwart it either. If that's the one cool thing they thought of in the last 5-7 minutes, I just don't want to take the wind out of their sails. So what I would probably do is either make it less effective, or I'd make them interact with it in some way to make it more effective. I would say, I don't know, I would have to come up with it on the fly, but I think this is a brilliant idea, and I would lean more player side. I would allow the players to get super creative, and I would reward that creativity. Absolutely would not make the effects of the spell immutable. That's me, and honestly, I think I would go either way, player or me coming up with this circumvention, basing it purely on the narrative and what would be the coolest and have the most conflict. Hey, Kyler Beverly is here. Am I saying that name right? Kyler? What you're looking at is here. It says if the players are purposely being careful to bypass something, they should be rewarded. I think they should at least have a shot. I agree with that. Michael M. Yeah, totally give the players the ability to break the rules. Exactly. Because that's what it's about. It's about coming up with a weird, creative, intense, just make them, press them into what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Same thing for traps and so on. It can be more fun to have them think wildly outside of the box. That's one of my favorite things about D&D is that creative problem solving that could only be done in D&D. So yeah, I would totally reward it. So yeah, check out Caius's posts in the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group because they're all just as evocative and well thought out. That's one of the things I love about Caius's questions is, Caius, you've put some thought into them yourself. And so I love the angle that you come at them because I'm like, oh, that's actually it's a really good point. Jonah Weatherby is here. What is up, Jonah? How's everybody's day going? It's a rainy one here. It's wet. And so there's a little bit of a chill. Got my hoodie on. But I definitely wanted to be consistent. Did not want to skip today. I might miss on Friday, or better yet, I'll probably just do it later in the day. I'll set up an invitation or an event. But I have a work meeting that I know is going to be in the afternoon, so I'll probably do something in the evening. Second question, another great one. And actually, I'll do Culver's question now. Kyler Beverly, please forgive me. I am butchering that. I like evocative, says Wild Picks. All right, so this is Kyler's question. Need a little help with some D&D 5e homebrew. Playing in a Curse of Strahd campaign and wanted to create a neutral good necromancer that summons spirits and phantoms instead of zombies and skeletons. Kyler's relatively new to D&D, so they don't know what the best route is to take. So thinking as far as maybe flavor grave cleric spells like Spiritual Weapon and Spiritual Guardian to act like the spirit's aiding. Run everything I'm about to say by your dungeon master, but I would choose whatever spells were interesting to me, and I would reskin or reflavor all of them. And since you're relatively new to D&D, I'll kind of go in depth with what I mean. There is what I call the quantum bones, or the framework of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and that is the mechanics. That means this spell is this level, and it has this effect, okay? As long as the soul of that remains intact, how you describe those mechanical effects are often largely up to you. That is called reskinning or reflavoring something. So, if my game master would allow it, what I would do is I would choose my spells, the ones that I thought were fun and interesting, even if they have nothing to do with what you're talking about, necromancy or anything. And then I would ask my game master if I could reskin or reflavor those spells to have that flair and flavor. Here's an example. Let's say you were using Create Food or Create Water or Goodberry. Let's use Goodberry as an example. When you cast that spell, no matter what class you were, etc., I would reflavor it so that this sort of spectral tree appears and you pick a berry off of this sort of ghostly tree. Or maybe even there's a headless like orchard worker who hands you an apple, stuff like that. Because as long as the game master's cool with it, it doesn't change the effect mechanically of what the spell does. Now, some spells do have very specific effects, and they're a little more narrative, so maybe not every single one. But what I'm getting at is you can choose the spells that sound interesting and then come up with interesting, cool ways that inspire you to go through and change them entirely so that you're this neutral good necromancer, essentially. So hopefully that makes sense. Hey, Dwayne Wild is here. Greetings, friends. Nathan Kaplan. Yo, what is up, Nathan? So hopefully that makes sense, Kyler. And if you have any other questions about it, feel free to post in here if you're still around. Or, again, like I said, just check with your game master. Some game masters, a little more strict about that stuff. I'm not. I'm so loose with my game mastering as long as the quantum bones are there, you could play a barbarian and reskin the whole thing as a druid. I don't care. That stuff doesn't matter to me. I love telling a great story, and I love for you, the player, and for me, the game master, to have a great time. Nathan Kaplan. Oh, first of all, hold on. Gotta say this because this is true. Wild Picks is everyone likes good berry. Everyone likes a good berry. Sorry, the chat is tiny. I'm sure you can see it. Nathan Kaplan. This necromancer sounds like something I've wanted to do. I wanted to make a spiritual medium, like a fortune teller that talks to ghosts type. And they, whether intentionally or not, can actually summon these spirits. That'd actually be really cool. So let's play off that idea. Nathan, you know what I would do if I was gonna play that character? I would give each one of my spells a weird personality. Like I'm contacting Nana Greta, the Orcish shaman, or I'm contacting a fighter who was slain, so he's got that sort of there's a movie called The Frighteners. It's a Peter Jackson movie. It's starring Michael J. Fox, and it's got these ghosts, and the ghost manifests in the way that they've died. So it's very similar to Nearly Had This Nick in the Harry Potter series, but I would sort of give either a character to each spell, or to keep it simple, maybe I would just choose say 6. I'd make a D6 table of these kind of characters, how they died, why they died, and their personalities. And then I would roll maybe to see who's going to deliver me that spell this time. Or assign certain spells to certain ones, or all of the above. I just think that would be a really cool way to do it. So yeah, Nathan, that is actually a brilliant way to handle that sort of thing. Here, I'm going to back up here. Oh, I gotta, real quick. I play a Grave Cleric who is devoted to a Dragon Death God, and all my spells... I'm so sorry. It went up. I can't scroll down on this chat. Barker's Icicle Magic Missiles opened my eyes. If you were on YouTube and you just posted that comment, will you post it again? I apologize. Dwayne says, reskinning. Oh man, I'm sorry. They keep Barker's Icicle Magic Missiles opened my eyes to that idea. What you looking at, said with Josh. He basically said he never thought of reskinning or restatting stuff like that. Let's see here. CBev1994 switched over to YouTube, and the way you ended up pronouncing my name was correct. Kyler is how you say it. Perfect. All right. Thank you. Nathan Kaplan says, Tim, I love that idea. How awesome would it be if one of my spells was kind of snarky almost? God, I love that. Like, Master, here's your missile of magic. That would be so fun. Oh man, I love that. And he basically said, one kept thinking it was trying to do what it did in life. So he keeps summoning a former florist who can't understand why he's fighting hobgoblins. I have a wedding at noon. This is preposterous. And then just like every bouquet of flowers that he makes does some awful thing. It's like the most damaging spells. And then Kyler says, what would be neat to imbue weapons or armor with spirits, kind of like a shaman king. Oh, that would be great. Hey, Paul Quattrocchiacci. It's Tim, the RPG man Carney. Paul, I love your questions about our recent book, Adventure Kit, Shadows over Drift Chapel. I love that you were running it. I think you did an awesome job of keeping the community posted, and I'm super thankful, man. So thank you for all of that. Corey Hollenbach. What's up, Tim? Tim is back. Back again. Whoop, whoop. Let's see here. Wild picks. Andrew Knapp has a paladin that was a cook. All of his spells were themed to food. That is brilliant. Wild picks. Talk about flavor. Bum. Mason Zilla. I play a grave cleric who worships a dragon death god. All my spells are reskinned to be draconic in nature. Spiritual weapon is a bone drake that flies around and attacks. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you for reposting. Nathan Kaplan says, wild picks. Andrew Knapp is a beautiful mind and a cot damn genius. Truemate says, wait, did I just pop into Goblins and Florists? You sure did. By the way, Absolute Tabletop has an official AppTab Discord. Link in the Facebook group. That is a great point, what you're looking at. We've been doing more stuff in the Discord lately. And so, in fact, this might be a good time to mention, what we're thinking of doing is an AppTab creativity weekend. Basically just doing a creative weekend this weekend where, and I'll probably stream more about it. The idea would be some dedicated Discords, some dedicated mega threads for stuff that maybe you're stuck on creatively, homebrew and otherwise. But just a concentrated effort where all of us buckle down this weekend and get a little bit of creative stuff done. And so we're planning on maybe doing some of that in the Discord. Paul says, my pleasure running Shadows over Drift Chapel at the convention. I have 2 online mini campaigns starting soon. Cannot wait. Hopefully they'll be recorded and I can watch. Richard Price says, I want to know what you think about electronic tables for RPGs. I think they're awesome. I'm a very theater of the mind person, so what I would do, I would actually use the map features to sort of block things out. One of the things that a lot of the people that I game with, what we'll do is we'll use either Google Drawing or Google Sheets to just block out rough combat positions. But that would be really cool if the table itself had just some really cool maps. I would love it if it was a touch screen where I could slide the tokens around. But I love that, and I would want it to have a some sort of a thin, clear covering so that I could put minis on it if I wanted, and put sodas and stuff like that. I know that probably sounds ridiculous, but Wildpig says, I'd hang out in the Discord with a bunch of gaming nerds. And then let's see here. I want to make sure. Oh, and then I have Drew Hoffner's question coming up next. But real quick, Kyler says, if you could suggest a class type to the game, what would you add? I'd love to see a Diablo 3 type Witch Doctor in D&D. So, I have a pretty unique outlook on this. Personally, I don't think I would add many, if any. Okay, so here's an example. To do the Witch Doctor that you're describing, I would probably reskin something in the game, like I described to you. And here's why. Not opposed to what you're saying. Not opposed to a Witch Doctor or another type of class. The reason why is because the classes in the book, they have been tested, stress tested, play tested by hundreds of thousands of people. So I know they feel good, they have a good mechanical balance relative to the rest of the game. Up to level 20, I would probably just reskin something. Very excited to see what they do with the Artificer, which is sort of like a alchemist inventory class that they're kind of tinkering with. And that is on something called Unearthed Arcana. It's unofficial stuff that they playtest and then release in later supplements. Alan Holloway, Tim A, what's going on, Alan? Richard Price says, it's actually what my company is going to be doing here soon. Remind me of what I said. I forget exactly what you're referring to. The Raven Rolls. Tim, I plan on recording both of my online Shadows over Drift Chapel mini campaigns on my channel here. Paul. Perfect, Paul. All right, I need everybody's help. We're going to help Drew. Drew is coming up with something I think is pretty awesome. He says, I need 12 ideas We're not going to do 12. I was thinking we could do 2. He says, I need 12 ideas for orcish saints in my world. If you want to know a bit about the culture, feel free to ask. I purposefully didn't. Here's why. I thought it'd be really cool to go in blind because I feel like we have no frame of reference and we'll probably come up with something a little cooler than if we knew and maybe set ourselves up with limitations. Okay. The word for the day, ladies and gentlemen, is what I love to do, and that is subvert. I like to take tropes, love tropes. Tropes are amazing. I like to take tropes and subvert them. So the first 3 standard orc deities or saints that you come up with, I want to skip those. So the warrior cleric, the Eye of Grumsh, these sort of gnarly orcish blah 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 kind of guys and girls, I want to dodge that and let's do something totally different. So my favorite way of subverting, well, one of my favorite ways, I purposefully choose something totally different to start with, because if I didn't tell you this is what I was going to do, it might be harder to recognize, but I'm going to kind of pop the hood and show you. Let's choose instead a saint that is not orcish. Let's do a saint of something far less bestial and mean. Actually, you know what? I'll throw it to the chat. Does anybody have something totally non-orcish, almost anti-orc, as far as the saint goes? Yes, Wild Pix. He's looking for orcish saints. Let me double check Let me refer to my notes. If I had spectacles, this would be the time I would put them on. I need 12 ideas for orcish saints in my world. Nathan Kaplan says, today's daily damage is brought to you by today's word of the day, subvert. Subvert. Submit verb, undermine the power and authority of an established system or institution. This guy gets it. What you looking at? Orc saint of travel. Love it. Krelv, the orcish saint of weaving. Love it. Let's mix them together, okay? These orcish saints, they're Krelv and who else? Saint of light like Pelor. Okay, so here's what we have. Krelv and Pelor. Krelv is the saint of weaving and travel. And so they say that she weaves a basket of roads that covers the entire realm. So those who worship her and who follow her, they know these secret roads. And it's called the Woven Road. And so it's not about destruction. So Krelv is not about destruction. Krelv is about creation. Krelv is about the joining of things together. Now, she always travels with her, some say it's her brother, others whisper it's her husband, but many believe that they're inseparable. And it's the Saint of Light, Pelor. Now, the Saint of Light believes that, so Krelor believes that you have to shed light on everything, and that everything has a shadow, everything has a dark side, and that once you reveal that shadow by shining a light on it, you must sunder it. So you have Krelv, who weaves the roads and weaves things together and brings people together, but some say that it is a culling for her partner, Pelor, to bring them together, shine the light, and then sunder the ugly. And what does an orc consider ugly? It's probably very different than a human. So there you go. There's 2 for you, and they work in a pair. So Drew, I hope that helps. Nathan Kaplan's got it. He says, wait a minute, we're combining trades for saints. I smell a roll table. This is roll table fuel right here. Maybe we could do this weekend in the AbTab Creative Weekend. Wildpick says, weaves a map that can be used to teleport to various locations. Love that. Love it. And both have to be present. Both saints have to be present because the light fuels the energy to travel. And so that's why they're a pair. And you want to talk about campaign fuel. One of them is murdered and the other goes mad seeking revenge. So maybe Pelor is murdered, and then Krelv, I think her name was, is goes mad and seeks revenge. So now these roads are known as the Blood Roads. And they are just, she's made them deadly, awful, ancient magics have come to life, etc. Hey, what's going on? Connor Davies is here. What's killing? Let's see here. Culver says, how would you define chaotic neutral? A friend thinks it's acting at random. It's very common. Where I think having a purely pragmatic view on things regardless of good or evil. I think that I would lean more towards your definition. I would also say, if your friend's play is disrupting the game, I would say, let's not use alignment. Here's why. Alignment, in my opinion, this is all my opinion. Alignment is a classification system for how people already act, I believe. And I believe too often it's used as the engine to drive and motivate one's actions. And that's where I think that it's disruptive in many cases. What I would recommend instead, if your friend would be open to it, I would recommend choosing a character in some sort of media that you love and you all have as a reference point, or at least the game master and the person and you, and then act like that person. And this is good training wheels, because if you say, you know, hey, I'm going to act like, you know, Shepard from, anything in the whole, like, I want to act like Captain America from the Avengers, you know, whatever it is, I think it should never be, all right, let me look at my alignment and see how I want to act. I think it should be, oh, how am I acting? That defines my alignment, if that makes sense. It's a very provocative topic that I think stirs a lot of conversation. But overall, I would say just kind of act like you think the character would act. And if it was me, I'd say, you know what? Why don't we just play along? Why don't we shelve alignment for a little bit? And let's see how things go. Wildpick says, many don't know that weaving is what led to punch cards. Oh, wow. Which led to computers, each thread of data interacting and intersecting with those around it. That's actually super cool. Did not know that. Connor Davis says, what's killing the avatar of Katu last night? Yes. Oh, man. So, very excited. I think I saw the link. Was that a link to the game? Because if it is, I would like to watch it. Because I saw your Pepe Silva prep, and Connor ran one of our supplements. It's called Adventure Kit Shadows over Drift Chapel. It's the same one that Paul ran the other day. Anyway, hey, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Keep an eye out. I think either this weekend or a weekend coming soon, we're gonna do that AbTab Creative Weekend where it's sort of like NaNoWriMo, where, you know, it's not going to be anything that we're going to do specifically and post a doc or anything, but it's more like a call to say, hey, everybody, why don't we work together and just work on your own creative thing. Nathan Kaplan says, I think alignment is an interesting conversation for a whole other daily damage, because I feel too often it gets viewed globally. We don't know every action and reaction, and acting is such an unintentional metagaming. Alignment is only from the eyes of your character. That is a very good point. That is a very good point. Hey, Brian is here. He says, Maths of the Saint of Stone and Building. It said that he formed the mountains and therefore the stone by piling the ground and squeezing it with his immense strength. There you go. That's 3 saints, Drew. I'm going to end the stream by telling you about National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. Wait a minute, Tim. It's like March, dude. What are you talking about? Here's the thing. The reason why most people do not actually write a novel during that month, if I had to wager a guess, I would say 75% or more, and that's being generous, kill themselves for 30 days. You should start writing on your NaNoWriMo book now. And here's why. If the only time I told my wife I loved her or showed affection for her was on our anniversary, or the month of our anniversary, or the month of her birthday, I would not be married. And the same goes for any relationship. And you have to develop a good relationship with whatever piece you're working on. So now you need to be thinking and plotting and making notes and coming up with your ideas and going through the motions and doing all those things, because when that November comes around, I think it's November, you should be ready to just write. People NaNoWriMo and they cripple themselves and feel like more of a failure because they're not prepared. So stop telling your wife, in this case your project, you love her once a year. Don't just celebrate your anniversary. You need to, every day, day in and day out, consider the project, plan it, and then when November comes around, that's the month you write it. But you should not have to do much, if any, thought. You just got to grind through that first draft. What you're looking at is maybe set up a specific group creation thing at a certain time too. Roll table at noon, then back to your own stuff. That would be great. That would be perfect for the Discord. And we'll probably do some group-wide events where, as people can. But it's just, I think I would like to try to do that like once a month, where it's more just getting the creative mindset and considering it. So. Wild Pixels, thanks for hanging with us again, Tim. Stay awesome. Thank you so much. Instructions unclear. Telling Tim's wife I love her, says Nathan. Oh man, I love you guys and girls. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do it again tomorrow. And until then, may you mend the first break. May you kill the first snake. And may you conquer everything you undertake. Sláinte.